Shane Gillis, live on stage.
I'm a bit of a history buff, which, by the way, that is early onset Republican.
His biggest tour ever is coming to Des Moines.
If you're a white dude in your 20s and 30s and you're like, I can't stop reading about World War II, it's coming, bro. You're right.
See Shane Gillis with his unmistakable comedic style. Live at Wells Fargo Arena Saturday, May 31st. Get tickets now at iowaeventcenter.com. For more, visit ShaneMGillis.com.
Come on, boys, come on here. Come on, Johnny, watch out.
Murph and Andy, proudly presented by Ramsey Subaru and BMW of Des Moines. Live and on demand across Iowa everywhere. From the Channel Seed Studios. This is Murph and Andy. Murph and Andy. Connected by Cellular Advantage.
It is Murph and Andy live on Iowa Everywhere alongside Andy Fales. I'm Keith Murphy. Andrew Downs, our producer, is back from vacation, and it will not be a boring Monday. We have a lot coming up on the show. Andy, going to kind of be a bittersweet day for you. Already we have Big Papa asking if you're going to be miserable for the entire show.
Well, no, of course I won't be. I've had a lot of practice at this. I think the Drake Nation has, we've had probably months to think about this and imagine it. So no one is shocked, and the news sucks. I think we can all agree on that. But it's not something that that anyone is surprised by.
And when you say the news sucks and you can all agree on it, you mean Drake fans can all agree on it because AD
the whole
is excited.
state.
Nope. News is great to me. I'm having a great day.
I had a conversation with Brian Harden earlier today, the athletics director at Drake. More on that later. But I asked him how he was doing, and his first answer was, it's Groundhog Day.
Yes,
you can relate.
I can totally relate. Just to make the point a little bit better. So last year, I don't know if you can see this up on my wall over here. Right. Where can I see right there.
Okay.
That is my framed autographed picture of the 2024 Missouri Valley Conference Tournament champs, with Darren DeVries and Tucker DeVries and all those other dudes. And I got it, and it was awesome. And like a day later, the whole thing was obsolete.
Collector's item.
Yeah. And so you see that. And then now I got this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It looks eerily similar. I just ordered the exact same frame from Amazon, and this fit perfectly. And you can see this is my autographed poster of the 2025 Missouri Valley Conference Tournament champions.
Hey, that's really cool. You have Iowa's men's basketball coach on there. Wow. That's awesome.
That's a dick move right there. So no, I mean, two exact same posters, and I got them right up next to each other. So yeah, this is the way it is, man.
Guest House Tavern and Oyster in West Des Moines sets the table for sports and more. Coming up today, Iowa hires McCollum. Iowa State disappoints. Two truths and a lie coming up in our more segment. Guest House Tavern, Northwest inspired, Midwestern hospitality. Let's get the buzz.
The Buzz. Brought to you by Logier Heating and Cooling.
All right. Well, Logier Heating and Cooling, dedicated to providing heating and cooling solutions to Des Moines area families. And we start with the big news this morning, not completely unexpected, but we did wonder if Iowa would release this on the same day that the Iowa women play in the NCAA tournament, but it was confirmed this morning. Iowa has hired Drake's Ben McCollum as the new head men's basketball coach. And the University of Iowa made this announcement in clever fashion by displaying a white shirt with a gold
yellow tie.
Yellow tie.
Yellow.
Yes,
they should have gone
gold.
with the black. Seriously, go with the black. That looks like a mustard spill.
No, the yellow pops more, Andy. You got to get over this. This is way better than Let's Get Mad Again, or Let's Be Mad Again.
It's just not as good as the blue tie.
This is a
Blue
new
is the
direction.
best.
Yeah, and it looks like this tradition is going to come over to Iowa, and Drake can take some credit for that, especially that cute little kid. I mean, he helped elevate this to the point where 79-year-old Dolph Pulliam is showing up to the NCAA tournament in a white shirt and blue tie. So I guess that is going over there. What does Iowa get? We've talked about this. We won't spend a lot of time on it, but one of the best coaching minds in America. And that's according to a lot of the best coaching minds in America. This is a guy, Ben McCollum, despite being in his early 40s, who other coaches seek out for advice on X's and O's. He's kind of the guy who takes the X's and O's and shows that X's and O's to a point can beat the Jimmies and Joes, as they say. 82% all time is the amount of games he's won. 4 national championships. Just led Drake with an all-new 8 in the rotation to an NCAA tournament win, to 31 wins, a program record, to the Missouri Valley Conference regular season and tournament championships. The question was whether he would accept the job. He certainly had other interested parties as well. Andy, you surprised by this at all? You knew Ben McCollum grew up Iowa Hawkeyes fan in Storm Lake.
I did know that, and we all knew that. I mean, this is and we also understand the state of college sports, and to a large extent, this kind of thing goes all the way back to, somebody pointed out, goes back a long, long time. It's been happening forever. Maury John, Drake's original great coach, went to Iowa State.
Not after 1 year, though.
Not after 1 year.
11 months.
I mean, we saw Keno Davis leave after 1 year. Darren DeVries, was really the anomaly. He stayed for quite a long time, but even that was in a little bit different era. We're just kind of we're in an era right now where, it's feasible that your entire team can change every year. Mm-hmm. I think you just know as a Drake fan, as any fan of a smaller school, for the most part, there isn't anything you can do. Occasionally you will run into a coach like Ben Jacobson, who's simply happy where he is, gets there, or he's got a few years to settle in and then realizes that, he's got a really good life there and he just doesn't want to leave that. Somebody, I don't remember who said this, but it was just a great quote, but they said, the one thing about, that they never tell you about climbing the corporate ladder is to stop when you're happy. And sometimes coaches do stop. And we know a bunch of coaches in NCAA basketball that have been courted by bigger schools in bigger conferences, and they've turned those jobs down. And sometimes that happens, but that's never going to be that's never going to be the common thing that happens. That's going to be an anomaly. So, if Ben McCollum is looking at what he had with Drake, which was the most incredible story in college sports, I think, this year.
It's underrated, if anything, and we've talked about it a lot. We've rated it highly, but it is absolutely incredible with 4 starters from a D2 school.
Right. Just an all new team. And, honestly, Drake fans, we went into this season thinking, okay, this is just going to be a rebuilding year. It's not going to be nothing special. But we also went into the year thinking, okay, well, we can keep our coach for a little while. But, the best, that I said this last night in What's Bugging Andy. We talked about it ad nauseum. It's such a strange place to be as a sports fan, where the best thing that you can hope for becomes the worst thing that you can hope for. The best thing that you could possibly hope for as a Drake fan is that you had a season like this. That no one dared think that was even possible, or they didn't even think about it. It was nowhere near your mindset at the start of the year. But that's the best thing that could have happened. Realistically, going to the NCAA tournament year one, winning the conference tournament, and winning a game in the NCAA tournament, that is the best thing that the craziest Drake fan imagined in the wildest parts of his imagination. It happened, but at the same time, when that happens, there is probably no way you're going to hang on to your coach.
Get in the crash position.
And if it was in Iowa, I think somebody else would have taken him. So, and you just don't have the money to put up enough of a defense. I'm certain that Brian Harden did all that he could. But, at this point, we still have Brian Harden, and he did this exact same thing a year ago. And when Nico Medved left him, he did the exact same thing. I mean, if we've got one thing that we're left with to feel really good about it, it's that.
Yeah, if you are a Drake fan at this point, you don't even have to sweat the candidates list. You don't even have to think about them. You don't have to worry about it. You don't try to do deep dives on all the potential candidates who might be interested in coming to Drake. I think you honestly do just sit back and wait to see who Brian Harden says is the next Drake coach. And when that coach is introduced, I think you can feel good about it. I was thinking he had hired Nico Medved this morning. Actually, he didn't. They were both hired the same year, but it was Harden who followed Medved. And then Medved had the, 17-17 season, which at that time was really good for Drake.
So, and he was taking over a program that was totally broken down under Ray Giacoletti. That didn't work at all. They were moving. They were moving the former athletics director out, Sandy Hatfield Club out, moving her out. So Marty Martin really kind of headed up that search that got Nico Medved, which was a great hire. But I mean, even if Brian Harden is the one that pulled the trigger on him, that's still more proof that, to any pool of coaches you're looking at, that you've got something to sell in Drake.
Yes. And then he thought he had a deal because he was forward thinking. He went ahead. He got a deal in place. Nico Medved had agreed to that deal and then changed his mind and took the Colorado State job. So certainly Brian Harden could spot what he had in Nico Medved, who, by the way, is now the Minnesota coach. So he's already got, there are 3 former Drake coaches now in the Big Ten Conference as of today. Darren DeVries at Indiana, Nico Medved at Minnesota, and Ben McCollum at Iowa. So there's no question. You just turn over your trust to Brian Harden. He is going to identify another coach that can get the job done with the Bulldogs. I had the opportunity to speak with Brian Harden today and go over the process a little bit. Wanted to share some of that with you now. I think it is interesting. It was not a done deal as of yesterday afternoon and early evening. Brian Harden went to Ben McCollum's house, continued to negotiate. Andy, as I think you're aware, is a Drake alum. Drake alums were really excited, and many were continuing to try to find a way to keep Ben McCollum. I think there were donations given. Brian Harden was able to offer McCollum more money, a better deal, better NIL, more commitment to the program. All of those things made possible by the absolute joy and excitement that Drake fans experienced this season and wanted to have more of that with Ben McCollum. So Ben McCollum did have pause under what is essentially Brian Harden saying, hey, basketball's number one here. Stay here. Make this the Gonzaga of the Midwest. It could be a blast. But Ben McCollum, I think partly out of the nostalgic pull of growing up a Hawkeye fan and for what is a sleeping giant there with renewed commitment from donors and NIL at Iowa and an athletics director who seems really talented. There's a lot to like about the potential for the University of Iowa. And of course, he is a coach who has proven he can do more with less because of just how smart he is in his approach to the game. So all of that happened. Also interesting to note that Indiana wanted to talk to Ben McCollum at the Missouri Valley Conference tournament in St. Louis. McCollum, and I like this, would not talk to schools while he was still actively coaching Drake. Now that's different from Darren DeVries, who the year before had met with West Virginia in St. Louis, even as Drake was playing. And it didn't hurt Drake. Drake still won the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. But Ben McCollum said no. He wouldn't talk to Indiana while he was still coaching the Drake Bulldogs. So he did wait for the season to end. He was not negotiating with Beth Getz or anybody else while Drake was still playing. waited for that game to happen. And if that cost him a potential offer from someone else, he was okay with that. And I really like that out of Ben McCollum. And Andy, I think if I'm a Hawkeye fan, I really like that too. Keep coaching your team until it's not your team.
Yeah, absolutely. You like to hear that. And, you wonder what you've heard a little bit about what West Virginia fans are thinking of Darren DeVries right now, and I'm sad to hear that because I still like Darren a lot.
Of course, yeah.
But I just realistically, I think that in watching the game with Texas Tech, as a Drake fan who so wanted them to win that game, I looked at that and I just thought that they cannot compete with a team like this. They are not big enough. They don't have the athletes to do this. And very realistically, you could jump to the conclusion that Drake is not ever going to be able to compete with a team like that. They might have an incredible game and Tech might have a terrible game, and maybe they win, once out of 20 times. But realistically, that if Ben McCollum wants to go higher than that in the NCAA tournament, and what coach doesn't? And if there is a coach that doesn't, then he shouldn't be coaching. If he wants to go higher than that, I mean, he has to. He certainly reads the tea leaves and says, at a place like Iowa, I have a better chance of doing that. So, I think Drake fans watched that and just thought, okay, I can put myself in his shoes if he decides to leave for Iowa, and this is a small part of his reasoning.
Yeah, I would. I agree with that because look at the Sweet 16 right now. In the unrestricted player movement, and there's always been pretty much unrestricted coaching movement, but with players able to go anywhere at any time for all intents and purposes, and with NIL and all the money of buying players that comes with that, in the Sweet 16 this year, we have nothing but Power 4 teams. Mm-hmm. There's not a Cinderella. There's not even anything close to being a Cinderella. Colorado State with Nico Medved might have been the closest you could say. I mean, that was the only non-Power 4 team that was one basket away from being in the Sweet 16. But it's going to get more difficult, not less difficult. And you could say, if you're Ben McCollum, can I ever top what just happened? 31 wins, a first-round NCAA tournament win, the regular season and conference championship. You could wonder if you can do more than that. And to your point, Andy, when McCollum was coaching against Dennis Gates, which is what flipped many Hawkeye fans, especially casual fans, from I don't think we want Ben McCollum to we got to get Ben McCollum. I mean, that happened in one night watching him coach circles around Gates. Took a team that averaged like 100 points a game down the stretch and held them under 60, completely dictated the pace of the game and just bent Missouri to his will. But he couldn't do that as much against Texas Tech. Still gave Drake a chance with great coaching and the effort of the players. Yeah, you got to give the players credit too.
They were not embarrassed in that game. They just didn't have the bodies. They still played well, and that was I think you probably got a huge. You got an extra round of assurance that he is the right coach in watching the Texas Tech game. I mean, really, look, those guys were so big. Drake couldn't get near the rim. They didn't even have to start shooting threes, which the previous game, they just blew up the opponent with threes. They didn't even have to do that. So that was a mismatch. And I understand in some years you will have those early round upsets where a far more talented team like Texas Tech does not come to play. Some plucky upstart team knocks them off, and we see that, and maybe that clears the path for another team that's not a monster to make its way into the Sweet 16. But for the most part, that's not the norm. That doesn't happen. If you just play straight up and down with a team like Drake versus a team like Texas Tech, and both teams are pretty close to on their game, I mean, the Texas Tech team is just going to win that. So I think you You just watched that game and you didn't. I didn't think anything less of him or the Bulldogs in watching that game. It just looked like it was David versus Goliath, only, Goliath, as he should, easily handled David. So I was not crushed by that loss at all. And the Drake fans that I watched it with, either in person or via text message, and that, everybody felt the same way. Now, I mean, I will say that, that the incredible thing is, we said the exact same thing about Keno Davis. Okay. People said, well, it's never going to get better at Drake than this. This will never happen again. He's got to go now. Well, he went, and I'm not comparing these two. I think McCollum is a far better coach, but he went and just never got back to anywhere close to that level of success that he had with Drake. And I think if he had stayed with Drake, he could have had more of the same kind of success. Darren DeVries, he came in, and when he left, everybody said, well, you can't do better than that. 3 different times somebody has done better than that.
Yeah, and Drake is at the top of its conference, I think, in all ways, where Iowa, you got to get Iowa out of the bottom half of the conference as far as resources, fan excitement, all of that, NIL, and that is the plan. That's Beth Getz's plan, but it won't be 31-4 in year one. But I think Ben McCollum is such a good coach. He is a point guard whisperer. He develops talent. He doesn't have to have the 5-star guys to go out there and win a bunch of Big Ten conference games. This is not Todd Licklider. It's closer to being Bo Ryan than it is to Todd Licklider. I think this is a great hire from Iowa. It might be Beth Getz's first choice. We don't know. We know that the Darren DeVries never got to the offer stage or any of that. We'll probably be told it was her first choice. I don't know if it was. We don't know. As we've said all along, we don't know who her short list was, but it did start to feel to fans like, got to go get Ben McCollum. And AD, you're away on vacation. This is your favorite team to watch. Your reaction to Ben McCollum being Iowa's new basketball coach?
Much happier than I would have been like a week ago. I think I'll be honest. When Fran McCaffrey was fired, we did our Instant Iowa show, and I made the case for Darren DeVries just solely on the fact that it would energize the fan base more. And that was the number one priority for me. You need to get more NIL money. You need to get butts in the seats and people buying tickets. And I thought Darren DeVries would do that better than Ben McCollum, even though guys like Chris Hassel had been, stumping for McCollum for a while. Part of it is because DeVries went to Indiana, and then I, moved to the second choice. But I will say, I hadn't sat and really watched Drake all season as closely as I did these 2 games in the NCAA tournament. And man, that's a fun team to watch. I heard a lot of people say the crispness, and that's really like the best way the way the offense runs and the way that the passes happen, especially after 15 years of watching a Fran McCaffrey team where it just kind of seemed like they were out there playing, playground basketball. To see that offense so well put together, to see that team so bought in, it really started to get me excited about this fact or this opportunity for Iowa. And so, going into yesterday, I was super happy when I started to see the reports come out. Obviously, this morning got the official word, and I'm as happy as I could be. If you had told me 3 months ago, hey, I was just going to hire Drake's coach, and they're not going to do, it doesn't seem like they're going to do much of a search. It doesn't seem like they're going to go out and try to get a big name or a young up-and-coming assistant. They're just going to hire the guy at Drake who was D2 last year. I would not have been that excited. Having learned a little bit more, and then obviously having, it actually happen, I'm not going to lie and say that I, something drastically changed in me outside of, hey, he became the number one candidate. I started to get on board with it, and now it happens. So
I think something did change, though, not just for you. I think people who watched that Missouri game, not only could they see the coaching on full display, but it's not boring basketball.
No.
Yes, they use the entire clock, but it's done with intent to get the shot clock down inside 10, usually inside 5. and it kind of wears the defense out. It shortens the game, maximizes possessions, and then Drake plays defense too. It was 13 steals in that game. So I think a bunch of fans are like, oh, this doesn't resemble Todd Licklider in any way. I think this is going to be fine. And McCollum's reputation as point guard whisperer. I mean, we're reminded Bennett Sturtz, who was the best player on the court that night, was all league second team last year in Division II. Not all America second team.
Who wrote that article that you're quoting there? The point guard whisperer. That was an interesting article.
Oh, Doty.
Coach
Doty called him the point guard whisperer.
Yeah. And that was a really interesting article. It's a good read. Hawkeye fans will want to look that one up. I think that, first of all, let's be realistic. If your team is winning, it's not boring basketball. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not. If they're not, it is boring basketball. This way is boring basketball. I mean, it does look like Todd Licklider if you're not winning. If he was winning, it would not have been boring basketball. If your team is doing stuff to the other team that they can't do back to them, it's not boring. It just looks like your team has a better plan, is executing it better, and it just hasn't been a chokehold. So it's fun. But, I think with this job, it's interesting because the opportunity that is there right now for whomever the head coach was going to be is not going to present itself, may not present itself again, ever, to that coach in particular or at the University of Iowa. I mean, you have a new athletic director who is looking to make her mark. You have an outgoing basketball coach who was very unpopular with a large percentage of the fan base, who neglected a huge part of his job in relating to fans and working with just kind of the growth of the program. You have a program that looks like it is willing to breathe new life into everything from the collective to the arena to just sort of the marketing of the program in general. You have all of those things that are there and will file in behind to support this new head coach. It's not often that a new coach comes into a situation with a slate quite that clean. There's no legendary coach that he has to replace. There's no, marquee player that has left that the fans are going to continue to talk about. It's probably even helpful to have Caitlin Clark with another year since her departure, even though the women's program has continued to do well. I mean, you really have a clean slate and a kind of for lack of a better term, a sleeping giant there at Iowa that he can kind of rebuild in his image.
And I think you could see a couple players jump out of the portal. A reminder, being in the portal doesn't mean you can't get out of the portal. And the portal officially opens today. Doesn't it seem like it's been open for weeks? It officially opens today. And of course, anytime your coach leaves, the portal opens for 30 days. So it would be open for Drake anyway. But I think you could see a Bryce Sanford, maybe a Josh Dix. I think you could see those guys come back out of the portal and go back to Iowa. The biggest star for Iowa basketball next year is probably Bennett Sturtz. Now, he is not committed yet. We haven't heard that he's leaving. I would expect him to follow Ben McCollum. Again, he has not said that he is, but I think he will. I think you'll see Bennett Sturtz there. And AD, for a guy whose name you didn't know 6 months ago, I think Bennett Sturtz is a guy at this point that can put butts in seats just based on the NCAA tournament. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, just watching him play, like you said, he was the best player on the court in that Missouri game. It's a position where Iowa struggled for a long time, so to have like a really good point guard would be very cool. I don't know what's going on with my camera, but I'll get that figured
that's
out.
All right. We can hear you.
But yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. It's all of the things that Iowa fans have wanted. It's a local guy, right? It's an Iowa City. I think I saw it's the first time since the 70s that Iowa's had an Iowa-born head coach. That's a cool thing. It's easy to get behind these guys. It feels like Iowa fans are really gonna kind of take this opportunity to hopefully refresh everything.
Yeah, Howard, Banks, Sturts, Manuel. There's some portal potential there. And by the way, Sturts will have options. I mean, he can pretty much pick any school he wants in the country. And if his number one priority is to make as much money as possible, he will likely pick somewhere besides Iowa. But I think you'll find him picking Iowa, and falling Ben McCollum over there probably won't be the only one. All right, let's move ahead here and get high or low since the last show Friday.
Presented by Wealth Charter Retirement Planning and Tax.
In business for 25 years now. They can handle your stuff up there at Wealth Charter. I don't know. I don't think I need to add too much more to this. I mean, you know what my low is. Lost our coach again. Yeah. More deja vu. It's like the exact same scenario, and it makes you feel a little bit defeated. But at the same time, I mean, having just done it last year, I do feel like it's not out of the realm of possibility that we could do it again. After all, Brian Harden hired these last two guys who were so good. They're now coaching Big Ten programs.
Brian Harden is he's the guy you got to keep at Drake.
Absolutely.
Because he's so good at his job, and for all the reasons we've expressed many, many times. But when I was talking to him today after the Groundhog Day reference, Brian Harden said, I wish we could get that white minivan with free candy off our campus. So he was well aware of
creeper
your
van.
Highly entertaining What's Bugging Andy last night about Iowa, the University of Iowa, just constantly coming over with that creeper van.
Oh yeah, just circling through the streets real slow.
When you started talking about the
guy in sunglasses,
the women's game today too. That
hit and he hit a couple of those references for the women's game. We'll get more on that later, but just the Drake connections to the women's game today.
Yeah, I mean, you've got both coaches. You got Drake's former coach versus Drake's former assistant coach, who was also a former Drake superstar. Both of whom played under Drake's other former head coach,
Lisa Bluter. Yeah.
Bluter and Jensen both absconded to Drake after they built up the women's program to where it had pretty much never came back. I mean, geez. Yeah, just like a farm team.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And it stinks. But what are you going to do?
Well, my low is something we've all been waiting for and knew was coming, and it hit us hard. It's Bryce Miller dying. Found out Saturday night, late Saturday night, and it hit me so hard. I know it hit a lot of people really hard, and we knew it was coming. Some of the details that I didn't share out of respect to Bryce and his family when he was in the hospital. I was there for almost a week. He had just had brain surgery. The cancer had spread everywhere, and he was fighting. Man, did he fight. And like his brother Bruce said, hey, Bryce, you're tougher than I ever realized, because he didn't complain. He did not complain once. And if I take anything good out of the heartbreak I feel and that so many feel, it's just that he's out of pain and he's at peace, because it was a lot of pain. He didn't complain, but it was a lot, and he fought and he kept trying. And it's been so awesome to see in the Iowa Everywhere community and beyond, really across the country, just the outpouring of respect and love for Bryce and the life he lived, and the way he packed as much as he could into those 56 years. The San Diego Union Tribune had a wonderful column. The Des Moines Register had a wonderful column. And I'm so thankful that I got to sit by Bryce's bedside for a few days and just read comments from friends and families, in some cases people who had never even met Bryce, who just wanted to share thoughts with him. And at that time, he was still able to take them in and smile with his eyes and occasionally say something. And I'm so thankful for that.
I'm thankful that you did that too. He was surrounded by, when he was still, really aware of what was going on there and who was around him. The right people were around him, the people that loved him. This is, it's funny because, I think about when this happens and death strikes, close to home, you think about your own mortality, all of our respective mortalities. And you start to think, what is the best exit that you can make? Because we're all going to make one.
Right.
And, I think about, my dad and the way that he went. And certainly I think of Bryce and my dad in kind of the same way, in that they just, at the end, they kind of called their own shot and said, I'm going to do this up until I can't do it anymore. And then I'm going to check out with everybody wanting more from me. And there isn't any better than that you can do with a life than Bryce did. He used it up. He used himself up. He did everything that he wanted to do. He was always down for everything. You know that.
Yes.
And
always said yes. And he traveled all over the world. He made friends easier than anybody I've ever known. And at the end, at 56 years of life, I don't know that you're going to find many 86-year-olds who've gotten more out of their own lives than Bryce Miller did. And he just used it all up, turned it in, rolled that sucker in on bald tires and fumes and just, tossed the keys to somebody else and said, yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. Is that's kind of a Hunter S. Thompson, a butchering of one of his quotes, but, works. Yeah. He was covering the Padres and then he was hospitalized and this all happened. I mean, he was at spring training and it was nice to see the Padres also honoring Bryce with some thoughts and some words. But yeah, he's covering the Padres, and I had just talked to him. He was coming to meet us for Colin's fight in Tempe, and I didn't hear back from him, and I was like, that's strange. And that's how we found out how dire the situation was. But, it was, well, less than 2 years ago that we found out that he had something going on. Mm-hmm.
And in the most Bryce fashion ever, we're going up to Lac Sewell Evergreen for to fish, me and Bryce and Kenny Pink. And Bryce says, yeah, I got something going on here. The doctor wants to take a look. And we're like, he's like, yeah, it's with my bladder. He wants to look. And you included, we're all like, well, maybe you should stay back and have him take a look at that. And he's like, no, I just told him that I'm going on this fishing trip and you just have to wait. And he did that. And I mean, I was on that trip with him and there wasn't like another moment where he said, God, I wonder what's going on with me. Or he worried or like held back on anything. He just lived the whole fishing trip with the pedal to the metal. And we didn't hear him mention it again until we were driving home. And we are all thinking to ourselves, how in the world can you be on this fishing trip because it sounded like cancer, right? When he said that, it sounded like the doctor was talking about cancer. And we're like, how in the world could you be up here with like a clear conscience right now? But he did. So he was just like, and I don't know that he would have lived another day.
Right.
If he had skipped that trip. And then the same thing when the last time I saw him was over Christmas, and had flown into Des Moines just to see some people. And Kenny Pink and I went to get a beer with him over at Big Grove. We were sitting around, we were like, he didn't look great, but his spirits were good. And we were like, so you're drinking a beer. So I guess you're doing okay. Is it okay for you to drink beer or, drink alcohol? And he's like, yeah, probably not, but fuck it. I wanted to see you guys.
Yeah.
And again, I am certain that did not cost Bryce 1 minute of his life, but he got to, we had that beer with him and I just, that was his philosophy toward his life. And he did it better than anybody. I mean,
it's an example.
It's a total example. The rest of us will envy him for the rest of our lives.
It's less than a year ago when we were starting to get an idea, even though he was never complaining or saying anything. And we didn't know at the time it was stage 4 because he never said that. But we were starting to get an idea. So he said, Bryce, you've been all over the world. Is there any place you've ever wanted to go vacation? He's like, well, I always wanted to go to Japan. I said, well, let's go to Japan. So Jenny and I and Bryce went to Japan 10 months ago or so. And we had just a fantastic time. And the only thing we noticed is once in a while he'd have to stop and rest because, his bones were aching. And I'm just so glad we did that. And he did miss one appointment in that, but he talked to his oncologist before he went. And she said, it's fine. Don't miss living. We'll make it up when you get back, which he did, I'm thankful for all of that. And I'm thankful for the outpouring that we've received through here. So many nice comments and people reaching out. And Bryce listened to every show we did up until the end. They played it in his room for him. And I really do appreciate that. You can email us and interact on YouTube. Many people doing that now. Appreciate all the people who are there. Scott, Todd, Tony, Kelly, George, Michael. They're all there. Marty. You can also email Murph_Andy at iowaeverywhere.com. It's probably not the best place to reach Andy, but AD will see it. I'll see it occasionally. On X, it's Murph_Andy, and it is all powered by the Cellular Advantage, proudly representing U.S. Cellular since 1993 with 35 regional locations. Now to some more hot topics. Iowa State exits the NCAA tournament before the Sweet 16, doesn't make it out of the first weekend. The Cyclones lost 91-78 to Ole Miss. Not a shock at this point. Did absolutely destroy Lipscomb in that first game, but Andy, this team is 10-9 in its last 19 games, and whether it's injuries or illness or chemistry or the loss of a healthy Keyshawn Gilbert and then Keyshawn Gilbert altogether, whatever the combination is, this team at the end of the season really did not resemble the team from December and January.
No, it didn't. It looked last night. It looked like the team that we'd seen struggle down the stretch, where suddenly they went from having too many options to not enough options, and I don't know. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, this was a really, really disappointing game last night. Really disappointing game because that Iowa State was much better than that.
Yeah, Ole Miss shot well, but Iowa State could not hit shots.
I mean, I walked over to the sports office. It was 13-5. Iowa State was on a 9-0 run. I sat down to eat my dinner in front of TV.
20-2
and they sucked from that point on. I mean, it came down. I can remember the moment. Ole Miss's big guy let the clock run down to 0, then fires just a completely, desperation 3, lucks out, and it goes in as the shot clock expires. And from that point on, Ole Miss, it seemed like they couldn't miss, and they were just, pulling the trigger from all over the floor. So I don't know. I mean, let's just tear the Band-Aid off. This is a disappointing season.
Well, let's get to the quickie poll and see which of these choices you would pick from WCI pools and spas. It is a disappointing season, I think. Maybe somebody will call it a complete success. I can't imagine. But, AD, what do we have?
Yeah, how would you characterize Iowa State's men's basketball season? Was it a complete success, just successful, a mild disappointment, or a major disappointment?
This is a difficult question for me because of the context of injuries. And they do have to be taken into account. The season never was the same after Milan Momcilovic was out for a month. They had glimpses here and there, but then Lipsy gets hurt. He did not look anywhere near 100% in the game last night against Ole Miss. Didn't matter against Lipscomb. It mattered against Ole Miss. Keyshawn Gilbert was the best player on the team back in December, but what's going on with him? We're not completely sure. He didn't make the trip. I think I'm leaning toward calling this a major disappointment. You start the season in the top 10 and you don't win the Big 12 tournament title. You don't win or really compete for the Big 12 conference championship. And you don't get out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament in a season where many of us, I include myself in this, saw this as a potential Final Four team. That to me goes beyond mild. What do you think, Andy?
Well, I mean, this is a question for Cyclone fans on how they feel. I mean, really, anything else is just a judgment from the outside. Yeah. Well, it's the most popular answer, but I'm not surprised. You don't want to call your own team a major disappointment. People don't want to do that. But if a Cyclone fan wants to call this just a mild disappointment, I would need to have them explain that to me. And maybe they could, but yeah. They had the greatest collection of talent that I can ever remember them having at Iowa State, certainly since the Hoiberg years. He had some great collections also, but this was by far TJ's most talent-laden team.
When the puzzle all fit, they had championship potential. Yeah, they had everything.
Inside, outside, role players, slashers, shooters, bench guys, so deep on the bench that there were guys that could have started at other schools who couldn't see the floor. So, and you saw some of their potential earlier in the season, but this is another reminder that often the parts do not add up to the sum that you want. I mean, you may have a great collection of players, but if you can't put them all together or they can't put themselves together on the floor, it doesn't really ultimately matter because they're just kind of a bunch of individuals out there. And it didn't look like there was any flow and hasn't been much in a while. I don't know where it went wrong, what happened, what the key factor was, if there was just one, if there were many. I don't know. We can speculate, but whatever happened, and they couldn't get put back together again. And ultimately, as somebody pointed out there, it's kind of a Fran McCaffrey tournament exit where he's had some talented teams and some very talented players, but ultimately he leaves the fans really dissatisfied with the performance of the NCAA tournament.
Mark Freund from WHO 13 in his final NCAA tournament went into the Cyclone locker room after the game. Here's some of what the Cyclones had to say.
I think shots honestly didn't go down today for us. It wasn't our night, and it was their night. It's going to happen, but give credit to them.
Yeah, it just seemed like it wasn't our day, and it was their day. They made a lot of threes, some tough shots that got them back in the game early. Those late shot clock shots, they hurt and get them momentum, so that hurt.
Basketball's obviously a game of runs, and it just seemed like they were on a consistent run the whole game, which was tough, and they shot the ball super well, and all props to them, and I don't think we did enough defensively to force them into tough shots.
What's going through your mind in those final moments when you come off the plate?
I'm just a competitor. I want to win this every time I'm on the floor, so it being the end of the season was just kind of like, dang, the season's over, so that's just where my mind was at.
That's Josh Jefferson at the end in tears. He says he'll be back. Lipsy will be back. Momcilovic will be back. A lot of talent returning. And there is an element of being a little spoiled here, Andy. TJ Otzelberger now 4 for 4 in NCAA tournaments, 2 Sweet 16s. I mean, this is the best 4-year period Iowa State's ever had. You could see more of a ceiling when this team was at 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good position to be in where, a tournament like this is disappointing. But at the same time, I mean, you just went into the season, and early on in the season, you were talking Final Four.
Yeah.
It really looked, when they played Auburn,
had an 18-point lead.
Absolutely looked like they belonged with that team, and really absolutely could have won that game. So to go from that to this is and I don't care who's injured. I mean, I know we're talking about injuries, and those are a factor, but I don't know, was Ole Miss perfectly healthy? Was every player on that team not banged up at all? I mean, that kind of happens. I mean, and this team at Iowa State was so deep that there were times where it seemed like almost you needed an injury to get a few other guys in there, but there were they didn't add up to the sum. I mean, you had great parts, but they didn't add up to the sum that they should have added up to. So, and it's okay to be disappointed. It is. It's not saying anything about your program. I mean,
it's not a personal attack.
No, I mean, this university put all of those players together. The collective paid those players, kept them happy, brought them in. And, this is the NCAA tournament, man. All of these teams are playing to win. They're all good. They all got in there based on, at least a few games during the season where they look like giant killers. And you catch the wrong team at the wrong night and you're not on your game like Iowa State wasn't, and Ole Miss absolutely was. That's what happens.
Here was TJ Otzelberger on the context of the season that ended.
When you win 25 games and you play in the Big 12, which is one of the best leagues in America, you win 13 league games. There's a lot of great things that happen. So even though we had high hopes and goals to make a run in this tournament, it doesn't diminish the things that the young men in our program accomplished throughout the course of the season.
Lewis. All right, there is. Andy's chasing his dog. That's great. One more reason to watch us on YouTube. Behind the scenes access, like Andy yelling at Lewis. So TJ Otzelberger's right. The injuries are a big factor here, no question about it. But the chemistry, fatigue, something also changed toward the end of the season. But it is a 25-win season. There is an NCAA tournament win. A lot of programs would love to have that. Iowa State women also started the season in the top 10, lost in the first round after winning in the first 4. Did you get Lewis corralled?
Sorry about that. I have a naughty dog that is out on the loose right now in my house, and there's nobody here to grab it.
I've seen your head on a swivel a couple of times.
Oh my God, he's on the loose.
He's on the loose.
This is a dog. If there's an Amazon package on our front porch, he gets to it and he just tears the thing to pieces.
Drake, Texas Tech. Texas Tech, just too much talent. Go back to that for a moment. This time, not a coaching mismatch. Grant McCaslin, one of Ben McCollum's best friend, just knew how to attack Drake. He didn't take the same approach he did in the previous game where Tech shot 46 threes, just pounded it inside, coached a smart game. McCollum did too, but Tech wins it 77-64. Here's the Bulldogs after bowing out, 1 win shy of the Sweet 16.
I did think that success was coming. When you coach guys like Mitch and Dan and Isaiah and Ferg obviously came back. He coached guys like that, you kind of know that success is coming. And I knew it because I have them. And obviously the rest of the guys too, but those 4 seniors, Ferg stayed around and believed in us. And I've coached those other guys for 5-6 years, Mitch for 6 years. So yeah, I expected it.
It's been a fantastic year. I couldn't have asked for a better year. Kind of like Mac, when I first got here, I was like, oh man, we're going again. But the way that this whole team has bought into each other, and the way that we just fought for each other, only being together, for 1 year, it's just been really special.
And all these seniors, we were all close together, coming from Northwest. It still hasn't hit me yet that we played our last game together. I'm sure it will, but I love playing with them.
That is Drake Jr. Bennett Sturtz, Drake Sr. Mitch Muscari, and Iowa head men's basketball coach Ben McCollum on Drake's exit from the NCAA tournament. So great season for the Bulldogs. Best season in Drake history as far as win total, 31 wins. Iowa versus Oklahoma coming up here in just over an hour. I would pick Iowa on a neutral floor. The Hawkeyes have really been playing well, but this game is in Norman, Oklahoma, not neutral courts in these early round games for the women's game. They tried that once and they had a lot of empty arenas. Jenny Bronchek against Jan Jensen. They're longtime friends. One of them's going to the Sweet 16. One is not. Here's Bronchek and Jensen.
Obviously, Iowa's really good or they wouldn't be in the tournament. And they're so talented. They've grown this season. They're obviously a program that you don't get to keep a really close eye on, but you keep an eye on, obviously with my background. And again, just so we're all aware, I played there. So, yeah, I have all the respect in the world. I know how good they are. I know how good they've been. I know for a lot of years I've followed that program. So we're not overlooking anything, and we better be ready.
And Jenny is just a tremendous young coaching talent. She's really great. She helped us with our first Big Ten tournament championship. She was a freshman. Very proud of Jenny. She's just is shining, and I'm really happy for her. But I usually like to cheer for her teams. It's not so fun when you have to face them.
Andy, it wasn't just the men of the 90s wearing those big baggy shorts and triple extra
giant
large uniforms.
Giant uniforms.
I had in my mind it was just the men.
You could put two people in those uniforms. It's so funny. And at the time we thought, oh no.
Oh, those are cool.
That's the way you always need to wear them. Not those tighties, not those nutters. That's what we used to call the other. Now everybody's back to the nutters again.
Back to the nutters. Well, I guess the women are back to nutters.
Well,
they're tight.
It's the same short. The shorts are the same. It's underneath the undercarriage. Yeah, they just look better.
A term comes to mind. I'm going to let it pass.
All
right. We've gone long as understandable, but I didn't want to let this day go by without mentioning George Foreman dying. He's just such a big part of my sports viewing life over several decades. When I was a kid, Andy, Foreman was like the boogeyman. He was just so intimidating and scary, and you knew he could punch so hard he could kill a guy with one punch. And then later in life, he becomes this lovable guy selling Foreman grills, and he just seems like a happy, jovial person. It's quite an arc in a remarkable American life.
Yeah, one of the most incredible sports stories, I think, of all time. First of all, you have a guy who has basically two different separate careers.
Yeah.
They're both very successful. But in the meantime, he changes his entire persona from bad guy, villain in the 70s to arguably the most universally loved athlete in sports. Everybody loved him. He was so charismatic and fun. And he's hawking that George Foreman grill, which made him a gazillionaire.
Got like 5 sons named George.
Yeah, everybody loved him. He went from, a true villain to a guy that you almost couldn't remember. You're just like, he'd shaved his head. That helped a little bit because it really did make him seem like a completely different guy. But he was so lovable and popular. And then after he's already become this gazillionaire, this entrepreneur, and had this comeback story, and everybody's behind him, and he's a really good ring announcer or a good commentator as well, he gets back in there and starts fighting again, and he wins the heavyweight title.
He's like 45, I think.
45, 47. He's like older than everybody. It's just incredible. Well, Lewis, good to see you again.
That's a good boy.
No
right
idea
there.
where you might have been, but I just thought it was so fun cheering for him late in life. And he was, I remember listening to him call boxing matches.
Yeah, sure.
With who was that? With Jim Lampley. I mean, he was great.
Jim
he did
Lampley
so
was
many things
torn
well.
up about Foreman's death. I saw what Lampley wrote this weekend, and I'm sure some younger people in our audience right now are going, "Hang on, George Foreman was like the bad guy,
right? It's hard to believe.
George Foreman,
the Rumble in the Jungle, one of the most famous fights of all time. He's part of it, and he's the bad guy.
Yeah, I think of him as like the old man boxing. Like this photo we have up here.
Right.
I don't recognize this guy. This guy didn't exist to me.
When we were
George
kings.
Foreman, George Foreman was in his 40s boxing and then hawking grills.
It was so, and then after he knocks out Michael Moorer, which was incredible. I watched that on pay-per-view. He'd been a commentator, so he's already good at it. They just hand him the mic in the middle of the ring and bring up the monitor, and they're like, all right, tell us what happened here, George. And he goes, well, I moved to my left, and then I just stepped in with what I call a ham hocks and Chitlin's right hand and knocked his ass out.
Yeah.
It was great. I love
awesome.
George Foreman.
Confluence is the official beer of Murph and Andy, and Confluence is where good things come together. It's Monday. We're not having a Confluence now. We'll get back to that on Friday. Right now, let's get some more.
But wait, there's more. From Either Or Eatery and Patio.
Well, Either Or should finish strong this week. I don't know if you guys peeped ahead at the forecast. We're supposed to hit 80 degrees on Friday. It'll still be March. That's nuts. 80 degrees.
Nice.
Patio will be open. All right, let's start with some words of wisdom. I like this.
Yeah, please.
Don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from. Okay?
That really resonates in the social media era, doesn't it?
If you don't respect them, if you wouldn't respect them enough to take their advice, why would you respect them enough to be insulted by their criticism? Sometimes easier said than done, I think.
But good point.
But good words of wisdom there.
Yeah.
All right, starting tonight, the Iowa DOT plans 5 days of overnight closures on 8035 at Hickman Road. This is a very, very busy traffic point for the Metro, probably one of the busiest. They've got to completely remake that interchange, that exit at Hickman. All those people living out in Waukee and Clive use that. There's so much traffic there. It's going to end up being kind of one of those woven intersections like the one that we have up on the north side of Ankeny, which should help traffic flow a lot better, but it's going to take a lot of construction. Detours will be along 100th Street going through Urbandale and West Des Moines. A couple of weeks ago, a man named Jay Gilder posed as an Orlando Magic player rep as he walked into Tiffany & Company, the jewelry store in Orlando, and said, hey, I'm a player rep. I want you to show me some jewelry, some earrings. So they, take him in the back as they do with the VIPs. And he sits down and negotiates with the store to purchase about $500,000 worth of earrings.
Mm-hmm.
And then he grabbed the earrings and ran. The police.
This isn't what I was expecting. I thought you were going to say that somehow he convinced them that he was taking these back to the players just to try them out.
No.
He'd be back the next day with a cashier's check or something. No, he took them and ran.
Yeah, his plan went to like the letter A. And then there was no B. Plan B was just grab him and run. He did. Apparently, Tiffany is accustomed to that kind of thing, as you think they might be. So the police are right after him. They chase him. They catch up to him, though, just as he's swallowing the earrings.
Oh.
He ate them.
Now he's got to get on a toilet.
Well, so they took him in police custody and put him in a hospital. Like to hold him until he gives up the goods.
Yeah, until he takes a diamond dump.
Yeah, so he passed 3 of the 4 stolen earrings on March 10th. And the final one, great, Andrew. Thank you for finding that picture.
Jeez.
You didn't need to do that.
Some brown diamonds.
Is that champagne? He didn't pass the final one until 2 days later, but what's puzzling law enforcement is that he also crapped out 2 additional earrings, and they have no idea where they came from or who they might belong to. This guy's like a piggy bank of jewelry. He's like a gumball machine, only you don't want to chew that gum.
It's more like a piggy bank, because I think that...
All right, let's finish up with 2 truths and a lie, shall we?
Are a liar. Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
All right, here we go, guys.
Where'd
We're
he
going
get
to read
those
these.
other earrings?
We're going to read all of these. 2 of these are true. 1 of them is not. You tell me which? That's really some diamonds in the rough, says Jens. Totally. All right, here we go. 2 truths and a lie. NCAA tournament version. First, there has never been an NCAA tournament game held in Las Vegas. There has never been an official triple-double in an NCAA tournament game.
Men's?
And
Yeah, we talking men's here?
men's basketball. Also men's basketball. Many players who won a national title went on to coach a team in the NCAA tournament, but none have actually won a title as both a player and a coach. Repeat those. Never been an NCAA tournament game held in Las Vegas. There's never been an official triple-double in a men's NCAA tournament game. And many players who won a national title went on to coach a team in the NCAA tournament, but none have actually won a title as both player and coach.
I think there has been a triple-double.
I think there has been a game in Vegas.
See, I don't think until recently they would even consider that because of the gambling. And I don't recall there being one since gambling has been legalized in most states. Sports wagering. I'm going to go with a triple-double. You're going Vegas.
I'm going to stay with Vegas, yeah.
Okay, you're both wrong. We'll do it like this. There's never been a game in Vegas, which is crazy. Never been one in the state of Nevada. So Oscar Robertson had a number of triple-doubles.
Right.
Magic Johnson had a triple-double. But those were all before 1984, which was the year where assists officially became a counted statistic.
Got it. Well done.
Well done.
Now, many players who've won a national title went on to coach a team in the NCAA tournament, but none have actually won a title as both player and coach. And that's not true. That's the lie. Actually, it's happened 3 times. Bob Knight, Joe B. Hall, Kentucky.
Okay.
And the great Dean Smith at North Carolina.
Oh,
all won titles as a player and as a coach.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing.
That's good. Nice job.
Yeah, well
there
done.
you go. 2
Well
truths
done.
and a lie.
All righty.
That's your more, everybody.
That is your more. Time for throwdowns.
Throwdowns. It's Throwdowns. Backed by Heartland Tire and Auto.
Heartland Tire and Auto brings us Throwdowns, an authorized dealer of Bridgestone and Firestone tires. You can find them in Ankeny, Waukee, Knoxville, Boone, and Creston. Andy, Ben McCollum will need to rebuild a roster at Iowa. Which player from this past season's Iowa team should be his top priority to bring back?
I think he could do a lot with just about any of them, but I think I would zero in on Josh Dix and say, hey man, before you even put a toe in the water, listen to my pitch here. Look what I can do. And that's how good would he have looked on this past Drake team? A number of those big, tall shooters like that. I mean, everybody needs those, but I mean, I could see him honestly making a pitch to just about all of them right now.
You said Iowa, right?
Yeah.
So Bennett starts doesn't count here.
Now we're Hawkeye fans are expecting him to come regardless. But yeah,
I think
which Hawkeye would you?
I think
back?
Sanford. I think he'll end up back at Iowa. I think Dix will too. I think Owen Freeman has had a foot out the door for a couple of months. So I think you concentrate the most on Dix. I saw Sanford liked the post today of Iowa hiring McCollum. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's a guy that grew up a Hawkeye. Brother was a Hawkeye. He wants to stay a Hawkeye as long as he likes the coach. Dix really has potential to. He was good. He could be even better. So I think that's the guy.
Murph, the first weekend of the NCAA tournament featured just one buzzer beater with Maryland. No crazy upsets. All Power 4 teams left in the Sweet 16. In fact, the only team seeded worse than 6 who's still alive is an SEC team coached by John Calipari.
Yeah, real underdog.
Yeah. Has this year's tournament been a letdown?
A little bit. I think so. You want the buzzer beaters. You want at least one legit Cinderella. Don't really have many buzzer beaters, and we don't have a Cinderella. And I'm concerned that we're not going to again, just because of the unrestricted player movement that still exists this time, and the NIL. It's so hard to build up enough of a roster to make a run. It makes what Drake did all the more impressive.
Well, and for me, it's another just crazy turn of the heel here. Up to this point, it's been my favorite NCAA tournament ever.
I get it.
Yeah.
From this point on, all of our teams are gone. I really don't care what happens. I mean, even my friends' teams are gone. I do have some friends who are Arkansas fans, but it's been a while. You'll keep watching. It's still fun, competitive basketball, but man, not having any dog in the fight what are we going to do? We're going to stretch for some sort of Iowa connection. I know us well enough to say that, but at this point, I'm disappointed that we don't have any more connections from here on out.
Hopefully it makes for great games moving forward. Sometimes those Cinderellas get into these final rounds and can't really hold up and can't compete. So hopefully it makes for really good games. But yeah, it's been pretty underwhelming. All right, Andy, a restaurant's posted closing time is 9 p.m. What's the latest acceptable time to go in and sit down for dinner?
As somebody that's worked in the restaurant industry, I respect this, and I know how this feels to be on the other side. I will not go in a second after 8:30, and even then, I'm a little uneasy, a little jittery.
It's circumstantial to me, and also depends a little bit on the place. If it's fine dining, I agree. Anything after 8:30, you would be pushing it. If it's something they can get together pretty quickly, I would go up to 8:45. But technically, they have to seat you at 8:59.
Yeah, I had a recent. I'll go get like pickup dinner for my wife and I. We'll feed the kids early, do all the activities, and once they go to bed, I'll go out and grab a beer and grab dinner. And it was like 8:30, and they were like, sorry, we closed the kitchen already. I was like,
huh?
Cool.
You can't do that as a restaurant. You got to be willing to serve everybody. But sometimes you could just kind of tell by going in there. They've got the chairs up on the table.
Exactly.
Somebody's got a mop working over on one side of the restaurant. Then you just don't go. But if it's still jamming and it looks like maybe they're just like, because they don't have to close then.
No.
There's not a state law. They can stay open as long as they're still busy. If it's still busy and you want to push it, then cool.
Yeah, we were in San Diego back in December, and we were there with Bryce, and Jenny and Bryce and I went into a pizza place. We talked about this on the show. We went in there. It closed at 8 p.m. Yeah. We went in at like 7:10, and they served us slices, and we sat down at the table to eat them, and the guy said, you have to eat that outside. We're like, it's cold and it's raining. He said, yeah, I know, but I've already mopped up.
And the manager didn't realize that he was saying that.
Correct, yes, because do you think Jenny let this go? Jenny did not let this go. The rest of the night was Jenny's repeated attempts to reach the manager, because we ate pizza standing outside in the rain on a cool night. 50s in San Diego is cold. We weren't dressed for it because they wouldn't let us sit at a table. It wasn't like we came in with 8 kids from a a scout troop or something, and we're going to tear the place apart. There's 3 of us eating 1 slice of pizza.
The worst thing I ever saw at a restaurant or a bar that I witnessed with you guys is you were in Kansas City doing something, and I was working down there, and we all went out, and it was the 3 of us were sitting there, and this waitress, did she have a pitcher or just several big glasses of beer?
Oh, a pitcher.
She had a pitcher.
Yes.
Spilled it. Was that over Jenny's head, or is
over
that story
Jenny's
just
head.
gotten better?
It was over Jenny's head.
Just like
down her back.
The whole thing just over, just soaked her. And we all were like, we looked at the waitress and she was like, sorry about that. And just kept going. And I was like, all right.
Didn't bring a free pitcher or offer to comp the meal or anything.
This is not going to stand. So I went up and grabbed her, and she was not having it. And then immediately I went on to the manager. I was like, I'm sorry. I've worked in the restaurant bar industry before. I know this stuff happens.
Accidents
but when
happen.
it does happen, you bring the apology stronger than, oh, sorry about that. And he's like, oh, well, we'll bring over a free pitcher right now. Can I get some towels and stuff? And I just I wanted that waitress to bring that over, but I don't think she ultimately did. But yeah, she was probably, that might have been her last night there.
Grimaldi's fan photos. You send your photos into Murph_Andy at iowaeverywhere.com. It is presented by Grimaldi's Coal Brick Oven Pizzeria in West Des Moines and District at Prairie Trail, Ankeny.
Come on, man.
Well, my dad sent me this photo about an hour ago. He's in Norman, Oklahoma, for the women's game. My parents went down. This is his buddy Galen, and Beth Getz is down there as well. My dad also found Herky at whatever bar he was at. But yeah, my parents are in Oklahoma for the Iowa women's game, the last team remaining in the NCAA tournament here in the state.
Yeah, I've never seen you turn anything around this fast. That was incredible.
Is he angling for a win here?
No,
Should we let Tom Downs
I think
win?
He's ineligible, but I wanted to give him a shout out.
I don't think he should be ineligible.
Yeah,
he should not be allowed to take you.
That is a nice
he has
photo.
to take me if he's going to win.
In front of the OU painted on the wall. Time for the Andrew Downs audio drop of the day. We call it the AD squared.
Yeah, it's powered by Game Day Men's Health. I go to the one in Ankeny. Sorry about that. You can go to West Des Moines, North Liberty. I was going to miss my tee shot last week because I was on vacation out in Colorado for spring break, and they sent a shot with me. So my wife was able to inject me. I didn't miss my tee shot last week. And I know they can set that up for other people too, where you don't have to go to Ankeny or West Des Moines each and every week. They can set you up with home injections. It was very easy. So check out Game Day Men's Health. We appreciate it. On the drive back on Friday from Colorado, I was listening to the show, and Andy, I heard your definition of sport, right? Which was, it has to have some sort of athletic ability involved, has to have a puck or ball or be a combat
With the exception
sport.
of wrestling and boxing.
Yeah. And then lastly, you have to be able to play defense, right? Defense.
Yeah. Got to play defense.
Well, so Kevin Bikeley sent us a video proving that bowling has all of those things.
You're in the pavilion at Manhattan Beach, and you're looking at Christy Ellison. She's up now in the 10th frame.
Needs 2 strikes to win the match. Just like that, she got a great break, a crossover, but she'd like to have this final strike.
And she was striking a bunch in practice.
Well, she has to be disappointed to not throw a good shot, and she ends up with a very difficult
That's
spin.
an old NHL commercial for Fox. But yeah, Kevin Bikeley sent that in and said, hey, there is some defense in bowling.
For those listening only, she got checked before she could roll the second ball. Just checked into the floor.
Woman went for her knees.
Man, that was awesome. Quickie poll results presented by WCI Pools and Spas.
How would you characterize Iowa State's men's basketball season? Successful, mild disappointment, or major disappointment? 60% say mild disappointment, 23% say major disappointment, and 15% say successful. Oh, I'm sorry. There was a complete success option also. And
it's hard to spot.
2% say it was a complete success.
All right. Let's be interested to hear the argument for that, given expectations, of course. Thank you for being part of Murph and Andy here live on Iowa Everywhere. We appreciate it. Please Like and subscribe. We're back Wednesday. We hope you are too. We love you, Bryce.